On a quiet night, when the stars hung low over the veld and the wind moved softly through the grasses, Maxi found herself standing beneath a tree she had never seen before, and yet somehow she knew it. It rose from the earth like a memory, its roots curled deep into the soil, glowing faintly beneath the ground, while its branches disappeared into a sky filled with silver clouds and ancient constellations. The trunk was wider than a house, and its bark shimmered with symbols that changed whenever Maxi tried to read them, some like leaves, some like paws, some like little suns, and some like words she had once known but had forgotten long ago. At the base of the tree sat a round-faced guardian with bright eyes and a coat stitched from moonlight. He looked up at her as if he had been waiting for her. "You are late," he said. Maxi blinked. "I didn't know I was expected." The guardian smiled. "Most people don't." Behind her, the veld stretched endlessly beneath the stars. Somewhere far away, dogs slept peacefully, their paws twitching gently as though they were running through dreams of their own. Maxi looked back at the tree. "What is this place?" The guardian pointed upward. "It's the listening tree. It grows wherever somebody is finally ready to hear what their heart has been trying to say." Maxi swallowed. "And what is that at the top?" "A land that has come especially for you." The clouds above the highest branches began to glow silver and gold. "What land is that?" Maxi asked. The guardian's eyes twinkled. "The land of remembering." For a moment, Maxi stood very still. Then, without another word, she began to climb. The higher Maxi climbed, the lighter she felt. At first, she noticed only the roughness of the bark beneath her hands and the cool night air brushing against her face. But soon she felt something shifting inside her. Old worries began to loosen, falling away like stones slipping from the pockets of a heavy coat. The worry that she had started too late, the ache of roads not taken, the disappointment of people who had not understood her, the exhaustion of trying to carry visions too large for one pair of hands. One by one, they dropped into the mist below. Maxi climbed higher. A branch curved beside her, and for a moment she saw herself reflected in a leaf, not as she looked in the mirror, but as she looked to the unseen world. A woman with tired eyes and a stubborn flame in her chest. A woman who had been knocked down more than once, but had never quite stopped listening. A woman whose heart had grown roots. She climbed on. At last she reached the top of the tree. There, between two silver branches, hung a veil of light that shimmered like the surface of water touched by moonbeams. Maxi took one deep breath and stepped through. She found herself standing in a vast library, but there were no shelves, no desks, no dusty books, only lights. Millions and millions of living lights floated in the air, pulsing gently like fireflies in a summer field. Some were small and soft, some blazed like tiny stars, and some flickered as though they were waiting for someone to notice them. Maxi turned. A woman stood there, or perhaps she was an old woman, or perhaps a young woman, or perhaps she was both at once. Her hair flowed like river mist, her skin seemed touched by starlight. Her eyes held galaxies, but her smile was warm and familiar. Maxi felt suddenly as though she had known her forever. "Who are you?" Maxi asked. "I am the keeper of what was never lost." Maxi looked around at the countless lights. "And these are memories?" "Yes," said the keeper, "not only of what happened, but of what it meant." The keeper led Maxi through the floating lights. They drifted around them gently, never pushing, never crowding, but coming close enough to be felt. One golden light brushed Maxi's hand. Instantly, she was a child again, barefoot, laughing, running across warm earth, talking to animals as though they understood every word. And they did. Another light touched her shoulder, and she saw herself sitting with someone who had come to her broken, frightened or uncertain. She heard her own voice speaking words she had not planned, words that came from somewhere deeper than thought. The person had left lighter. Another light floated near, this one glowing blue. Maxi saw herself in a difficult season, wondering whether anything she did truly mattered. She saw the nights of doubt, the half-finished plans, the prayers whispered into darkness, the ideas that felt too long, the doors that would not open. Then the memory widened, and she saw something she had not seen at the time. A person had read something she wrote and found courage. Another had changed the way they cared for their dog. Another had planted herbs because of her. Another had begun asking different questions about healing. Another had remembered that nature still spoke. The lights began connecting. One kindness became another. One lesson became a healing. One healing became a new path. One small seed became a tree in someone else's life. Maxi pressed a hand to her chest. "I didn't know," she whispered. "No," said the keeper gently. "Most seed planters don't see the forest while it is still underground." They walked deeper into the library. A darker light drifted toward them, and Maxi stepped back. "I don't want to see that one." The keeper did not force her. She only stood quietly. "What is it?" Maxi asked. "A memory you have carried as a wound." Maxi's throat tightened. The light pulsed softly, waiting. At last, she reached out. The moment it touched her, she saw a mistake she had carried for years. She felt the old shame rise, the old regret, the old question. Why didn't I know better? But then the memory changed. She saw what came after, how the mistake had humbled her, how it had sharpened her discernment, how it had made her kinder to people who were still learning, and how it had closed one road and forced open another. The light warmed in her hand. It was not beautiful because it had been easy. It was beautiful because it had been transformed. Maxi breathed out. "It wasn't the end," she said. "No," said the keeper. "It was a turning." After a while they came to the center of the library. There the lights moved in great spirals, like stars forming a galaxy. Maxi watched them in awe. "Why are you showing me this?" she asked. The keeper looked at her with deep kindness. "Because you keep asking what your mission is." Maxi lowered her eyes. "Yes, and you keep expecting it to be bigger." Maxi frowned. "What do you mean?" The keeper lifted one hand, and thousands of lights brightened. Each one showed a life touched by another life, a word spoken at the right moment, a remedy shared, a page written, a wound witnessed, a dog understood, a child protected, a garden planted, a stranger encouraged, a person reminded that they were not powerless. The light spread outward like roots beneath a forest floor. "You think your purpose is a destination," said the keeper. "You think it is a grand place you must arrive at, a finished thing you must build, a final proof that you did what you came here to do." Maxi's eyes filled with tears. The keeper stepped closer. "But purpose is not a place you arrive." "What is it then?" Maxi whispered. The keeper pointed to the lights. "Your purpose is remembering who you are, often enough that others remember who they are. The words moved through the library like a bell, not loud, but endless. For a moment everything became still, even the lights seemed to pause. Maxi felt the words sink into her bones. Remember who you are, so others remember who they are. Then the keeper placed a small object into Maxi's hands. It was a seed, golden, warm, alive, pulsing gently as if it had a tiny heartbeat of its own. "What is this?" Maxi asked. "A reminder." "Of what?" The keeper smiled. "That every giant tree begins as something invisible." Maxi looked down at the seed. "It feels too small." "Yes," said the keeper. "That is why so many people underestimate them." "Where must I plant it?" Maxi asked. The keeper touched Maxi lightly over the heart. "Where you always planted them." Maxi looked confused. "In people?" "In words, in remedies, in stories, in gardens, in animals, in courage, in the quiet spaces where someone has forgotten they are alive." Maxi closed her hands around the seed. "And what if I cannot see it grow?" The keeper's eyes softened. "Then you must trust the soil." The silver light around the library began to fade. The living lights dimmed one by one, not disappearing, but retreating into the great silence from which they had come. The land of remembering was moving on. Maxi felt a sadness rise in her. "Must I leave already?" "For now. I still have so many questions." The keeper laughed softly. "You always do." Maxi smiled through her tears as she stepped back towards the veil of light. She turned one last time. "Will I remember all of this when I wake up?" The keeper tilted her head. "No." Maxi sighed. "Of course. But you will remember enough." "What does that mean?" "It means you may forget the library. You may forget my face. You may forget the exact words." The keeper's voice became softer. "But when the morning comes, you will feel something warm in your chest. You will know there is work to do. Not heavy work, not desperate work, sacred work." Maxi held the golden seed tightly. "And if I doubt again?" "You will." Maxi gave a small laugh. The keeper smiled. "And then you will listen again." The veil opened and Maxi stepped through. She climbed down the listening tree as dawn began to touch the horizon. By the time her feet reached the earth, the guardian at the base of the tree was gone. The stars were fading. The felt was turning gold. Only one symbol remained glowing on the bark, a small golden seed, and then that too disappeared. The next morning, as the sun rose over the earth and the dogs stretched awake, Maxi opened her eyes. The dream was already slipping away. The trees, the lights, the woman with galaxies in her eyes, all of it dissolved like mist in the morning sun. But one thing remained. In the center of her chest was a feeling of a tiny golden seed, warm, alive, and waiting. Maxi lay still for a moment, just listening. Outside, the world was beginning again. A bird called from the trees. A dog sighed beside her. The first light of morning touched the room. And somehow she knew. Her work was not to become the whole tree. It was not to hold up the sky. It was not to prove the forest before the first roots had formed. Her work was simply to keep planting seeds, in the willing, in the weary, in the forgotten, in the ones who were ready to remember. The tree would take care of itself. And somehow, far beyond the waking world, the land of remembering drifted on, carrying millions of lights through the silver gold clouds, but one small light stayed behind, in Maxi, in her listening heart. And it was enough.